My name is Margaret. I am 70 years old, and until 2 years ago, I believed my family was the greatest achievement of my life. My husband, Richard, and I spent 43 years building a successful commercial real estate company from nothing. We bought one small apartment building with borrowed money. We cleaned hallways ourselves. We painted walls on weekends. We collected rent personally because we could not afford a property manager. Every dollar mattered. By the time Richard passed away after a brief battle with pancreatic cancer, our investments had grown into an estate worth just over $38 million. The properties were held inside a carefully designed family trust. Richard insisted on creating it because he believed wealth without discipline destroyed families. At the time, I laughed and told him our children would never fight over money. Looking back now, I wish I had listened more carefully. Our son, Stephen, was 45. Charming in public. Arrogant in private. He drove a $148,000 black Mercedes S-Class that was leased through one of his failing companies. Our daughter, Kathleen, was 42. She wore designer handbags that somehow appeared every few months despite drowning in credit card debt. Together, they constantly spoke about preserving the family legacy while quietly treating my bank account like their emergency savings fund. After Richard's funeral, something changed. Their weekly visits slowly became monthly inspections. They no longer asked how I felt. Instead, they asked whether I had updated my will. They asked where important documents were stored. They asked whether I still remembered every account password. Each question sounded innocent alone. Together, they formed a pattern that made my stomach tighten. Then came the accident. A delivery truck ignored a red light and slammed into the driver's side of my car. I survived with multiple fractures, a concussion, and several weeks in the hospital. The doctors expected a full recovery, but they warned I would need physical therapy and patience. I appreciated their honesty. My children appreciated something else entirely. They believed my injury had finally given them the opportunity they had been waiting for, and they wasted absolutely no time proving just how little I actually meant to them. The morning after my surgery, I woke before sunrise because the morphine had started wearing off. My room was quiet except for the soft rhythm of the heart monitor and the distant squeak of nurses' shoes in the hallway. I reached for the call button, then stopped when I heard familiar voices outside my partially open door. Stephen laughed. She's confused enough already. One doctor's opinion won't be difficult to arrange. Kathleen answered in a whisper that carried perfectly through the silence. If we move quickly, the trust can be transferred before anyone questions it. After that, we place her in a private nursing facility. She'll never understand what happened. Every trace of pain disappeared beneath a wave of icy clarity. I remained perfectly still. They stepped inside moments later, wearing warm smiles that looked rehearsed. Stephen kissed my forehead. Good morning, Mom. How are you feeling? I've been better, I replied softly. Kathleen squeezed my hand. We're going to take care of everything. You just need to rest. I smiled back. Thank you, sweetheart. Neither of them realized I had heard every single word. From that moment forward, I stopped seeing them as frightened children making terrible choices. I saw two adults deliberately planning to steal everything their father and I had spent 4 decades building. Later that afternoon, my longtime attorney, Henry Collins, arrived carrying a leather briefcase he had owned for as long as I could remember. Henry had represented Richard and me for 31 years. He noticed something unusual immediately. You look like someone with a plan, he said quietly. I do. After the nurse closed the door, I repeated every conversation I had overheard, word for word. Henry never interrupted. When I finished, his expression hardened. Margaret, if they're creating false medical evidence, they're entering criminal territory. I thought so. We'll need proof. I want more than proof, I answered. I want consequences. Henry nodded once. Then we proceed carefully. The next morning, he arranged for an independent neurological examination performed by one of the state's most respected specialists. 3 hours of memory tests followed. Mathematics. Current events. Financial calculations. Legal reasoning. The doctor smiled before leaving. Mrs. Harrison, your cognitive function is exceptional. Frankly, it's better than many patients 20 years younger. Henry requested certified copies immediately. Meanwhile, I quietly hired a digital forensic investigator. He recovered deleted emails between Stephen, Kathleen, and a private physician willing to produce an exaggerated cognitive assessment in exchange for $25,000. The investigator also obtained bank transfer records, encrypted messages, and recorded phone conversations through lawful court-authorized procedures connected to the developing fraud investigation. Every document was authenticated. Every recording was time-stamped. Every signature was verified. Instead of confronting my children, I thanked them each time they visited. I let them believe their performance was convincing. Greed has an interesting habit. The more confident dishonest people become, the less careful they are. Exactly as Henry predicted, they soon made a mistake so reckless that neither expensive lawyers nor carefully rehearsed excuses would ever be able to rescue them from what was coming next. On my 70th birthday, the ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers, fresh white roses, and smiling faces pretending to celebrate me. Stephen raised a champagne glass and announced that our family had gathered to honor my remarkable life and discuss the future of the estate. Kathleen placed elegant documents beside my seat, smiling as though victory already belonged to them. I thanked everyone for coming and invited Henry to say a few words. He walked calmly to the microphone, opened his briefcase, and removed a sealed envelope. The Harrison Family Trust has been lawfully amended, he said. Mrs. Harrison has been declared fully competent by independent medical specialists. Effective immediately, the commercial properties, investment accounts, and remaining estate assets have been transferred according to her revised instructions. The room fell silent. Henry continued. Substantial charitable gifts will establish the Richard and Margaret Harrison Community Foundation. Longtime caretaker Leo Martinez will receive the family residence and a permanent financial trust. Stephen Harrison and Kathleen Brooks receive nothing. Stephen lurched to his feet. This is fraud, he shouted. Kathleen demanded the paperwork immediately while guests stared in disbelief. Henry calmly placed another folder onto the table. Before anyone threatens litigation, he said, please review these exhibits. Inside were the fabricated medical reports, payment records for the dishonest physician, authenticated emails, recorded conversations, and sworn forensic certifications. Their faces drained of color with every page they turned. Henry looked directly at them. The authorities already possess certified copies. Criminal complaints have been filed. Civil recovery proceedings begin tomorrow. Stephen tried blaming Kathleen. Kathleen blamed Stephen. Neither accepted responsibility. Police detectives entered the ballroom, requested their cooperation, and escorted them outside without handcuffs because they came voluntarily. The celebration resumed only after the doors closed. Friends hugged me. Leo quietly thanked me for trusting his loyalty. I smiled because justice had required patience instead of anger. Months later, the foundation funded scholarships, neighborhood clinics, and housing for struggling families. Watching lives improve brought greater satisfaction than any luxury purchase ever had. I sold the oversized mansion, moved into a peaceful lakeside home, planted roses Richard always loved, and spent quiet mornings reading on the porch with fresh coffee beside me. Sometimes people ask whether I regret disinheriting my children. I regret only believing that blood guaranteed character. Trust must be earned. Respect must be protected. And betrayal always carries a price. Richard always believed wealth should serve honest people, not reward greed. His values survived because I finally defended them. My future became lighter without constant manipulation. Peace replaced suspicion. Purpose replaced fear. Every sunrise reminded me that courage sometimes speaks softly while justice arrives with perfect timing. I never celebrated my children's downfall, I simply accepted the truth they created. That acceptance became my greatest freedom at last, forever and never again. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Let me know in the comments what you would have done.